Good morning. Welcome to Craft Time at the Lisbon Hepburn Library. My name is Michelle McClagan and I am the director of the library here in Lisbon. And today we are going to be making a yarn wrapped cat. So this is what our finished project is going to look like. It is yarn wrapped. It's a cat. He has a little stand and he will sit up right on the table. So put that aside for just a moment. If you've had the opportunity to pick up a craft kit already, this is what your kit is going to look like. And what you will have in the kit is a couple of things here. There's not as much in this kit as there are in some of our others. So your kit will have an instruction sheet with the template that you want to cut out, as well as 2 eyes. You'll also want to cut those out. You will have a piece of pretty thick cardboard here. It's about the same thickness as a cereal box, okay, but it's plain on both sides. It doesn't have any pictures. And you will have some yarn. Your yarn is going to be wrapped around a popsicle stick, okay, which you might want to use on the back. If you find that it's falling over, you could always give it a little extra support, but otherwise you really don't need the popsicle stick. So our first step is going to be to cut out the cat, okay? So I have another one over here that I've already cut out. So there is my cat. We are going to then take a piece of this cardstock paper, cardboard, and you're going to cut out the cat. Now, I'm going to recommend that you put your template kind of over towards the side. Doesn't matter which side, but you're going to want to make sure that you've got this long piece over here, because if you look at the back, we're going to use a strip from the long side to make it so that the cat will stay propped up. So you'll put it over here. You want to provide from home a pencil or a pen so that you can do all of the tracing, a glue stick, a pair of scissors, and a marker. I happen to have a black one, but any color would be just fine. So you trace this, okay? And once you have traced that, you will end up with something that looks like this, okay? And this is where this came from. So this is going to be the kitty cat that you are going to wrap the yarn around. One of the things that we want to do first, though, is we want to create his feet, okay? And this little tab, which is kind of his tummy, so that his tummy will go back towards the other side. You can draw that. It's not on the template. You just kind of have to eyeball it and cut that out. So we will take our scissors and just do kind of a little bit of maybe a rounded, because his paws should be round, a slit up there, and then an equal sized slit on the other side. And you'll want to cut up about that far, okay? And that way you would be able to take this and fold it back. So you do want to make sure that both sides are pretty even so you can do that to it, okay? Next step that we have is to do something about drawing his face. So the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and cut out the 2 eyes that you were given on your template. And we're going to go ahead and glue those down, because that will give us a really good idea of where we want to put the rest of his face. So let me get some glue on his eyes, and then I'm going to just kind of take those and I'll put one right there, and I'll take his other eye and I'm going to get plenty of glue on that so it will also stick. And I'm going to put his other eye right about there, and I am going to try and line those up and give them a good press down. You want them to stick. And that is the end of the glue that I need right now. Now, some of the other things that we did for the kitty cat's face is we drew kind of the middle of his ears. So we'll take our marker and we'll draw 2 triangle-ish kind of shapes up in here for each of his ears. All right. And then we're going to do an upside down triangle right in the middle of his face, and that is going to be his nose, and we'll color that one in with the marker. And if you don't have any markers, you can certainly use crayons or some colored pencils. Then we're going to draw a line straight down, okay? And then we're going to give him a little bit of a smiley face. So we'll do a smiley face, and I'm going to make it a little bit thicker because I have a fairly thin marker here. So we'll do a little coloring in here. And then we'll give him a little bit of a smile on the side there too. And if you can see, I've made a bunch of dots for some whisker space. So we'll just throw a couple of dots in around his nose and his mouth. And what we've done here when we've cut everything out, we left some space so his whiskers can stick out over his face. So we're just going to draw 3 lines and bring them kind of together here, sort of close to where the little dots are. And I'll make those just a little darker so they show up. But if you look at a real kitty cat, his whiskers are going to be pretty thin. All right, so let's do a second one on this side. And then we'll do a third one. And that will give him some whiskers. The other thing that I did, just to kind of fancy it up a little bit, is I did draw some little eyelashes. Because if you look, you will have some tiny little eyelashes. And I didn't really do much to do any long lines or anything. It was more like just some dots around the edge of his eyes. Something nice and quick. Nothing fancy. Just a little extra to make his eyes stand out. And then the only other thing I did was down here, I gave him a little bit of some toes on his feet. So I drew 3 little humps, and we'll call those his feet, and we can darken those up since I have a thin marker. You can color them in if you want to do that. All right, and then our next step is the one that's going to take you the longest. And what you're going to want to do is take your yarn that came on your popsicle stick, and you're going to want to unravel some of it. And when I started at the top, and you can see where my end is. I didn't even glue anything down. What I did was I wrapped a little bit around the side, okay? And then as I started to come around, I just held it down in place. And once I got a little bit done, it went pretty easily without me having to hold it. And keep unraveling your yarn as you go. And it's real simple, round and round and round. And you can do it kind of loose, and then you can kind of slide it together with your fingers. So we'll give him a little bit of a sweater. And you should have enough yarn to do a pretty good size wrap here. And as you're going along, you'll see that it's just unwinding from my little spool. And I'm just going to do this real quick so you don't have to watch me do the wrapping for a really long time. And I'm just going to slide it up a couple little rows at a time so that it's all up here together. Give it a couple more wraps. You do not have to use all of the yarn. If you find that you have more yarn than you really want, you can certainly use your scissors and trim it off. But I want him to have a nice warm sweater, because even though it's starting to get a little bit warmer outside, we are still just at the beginning of March. And there is still going to be some cold days for a nice toasty sweater. And then you can bring it up really close to his shoulders and spread those over a little bit. All right, mine's not quite as neat as my sample was because I wanted to get it wrapped as quickly as possible. Now, once you get towards the end, and see, that kind of was right where we wanted to cut. You could always cut a little bit deeper if you needed to. You're going to want to just come along on the back side and lift a couple of those strands up and give it a little bit of a twist with the end of the yarn. And you can trim that off. You can always use a little bit of glue if you think that you want to try and hold it down a little bit. But there we have our kitty cat sweater. The next step that we have is the last one. And what we want to do, if you take this and you tip it back, he's just going to fall over. And we want him to sit up like this one does. So I'm going to take a thin strip. And like I said, we started, this was what I had after I cut out my kitty cat. And this is the long strip that I cut off of the side. It's not perfect. I didn't use a ruler or anything. Then if you look at the back of my sample here, we have a long piece that comes down, okay? And then the bottom, it's folded. And it's not really something that you have to measure, but fold it once, okay? So it's straight like that. And then if you can see down inside of here, I have a little piece that's glued on. So you want to fold just a little bit like that. So you end up with something that's a little bit of an easel that stands up like this, and it'll stand up on its own and it's going to support your cat. So the next step is to take this little piece that's right here. And if you look, this is the shape that I've got. So you want to get your glue back out and glue just this little square. Okay, plenty of glue there. And then it's going to go down. And you want to line it up so that when it's folded, it lines up with the bottom of the kitty cat's feet. Give it a nice, good press, okay? Come back over here, take this part, and up at the very, very top, you want to add more glue. You don't need to fold it or anything, because what you're going to do is take it like this, see where this makes a nice straight part, hold it up. How straight do you want your kitty cat to stand? And pick a spot, stick it down, let go. He's standing up. Maybe he's a little too straight there. Maybe you want him to be a little more tipped back, so you can move it up and you can adjust him before the glue dries. Okay, so now we have two and they are sort of matching. Okay, we have the neat one that I did first, and we have the not quite as neat one that I just did today. But we have a pair of kitty cats now, one in an orange sweater and one in a purple sweater, that will stand up on their own. And if you want to make more of these, like if you want to have a pair, your kit only makes one, you can use a cereal box and just get some extra yarn. You've already got the template. And if you don't have, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have the eyes, but you can draw those on and you can color them in with a marker or with some crayons, and you are all set. There we go. We have kitty cats today. Thank you so much for joining us for story time. Craft time. Once again, my name is Michelle McLagan and I'm the director of the library here in Lisbon. And I would love to see you next week for both story time on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and craft time on Fridays at 9 a.m. And as always, you can watch the videos at your convenience. They're on Facebook. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day crafting. Take care.